Member for Oakville Gordon.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. Continuing with Section 3, I have one somewhat technical question and a number of broader questions.
Members, we are on Section 5.
Section 5 of the bill for Section 3 that is being amended in the BC IC Amendment Act. Thank you for that clarification, Honourable Chair. Honourable Chair, the first question is with respect to in Section 3E of the Act that is to be amended, not Section 5 of the bill, that's the Amendment Act, it says specifically there that one of the purposes is to gather and organize information on scientific research. Now, I'm questioning why the word technological was not added as well as scientific research. And the question is this being left out explicitly, or is science to include technology here? And the reason why I do that is a number of times in this section, that is Section 3 of the Act that's amended, Section 5 of the Act that's doing the amending, a number of times here, science has been replaced by science and technology, and it's really this one place where it hasn't. So my question to the Minister is, does this mean to include scientific and technological research, as it says actually earlier in the same section?
Minister.
Thank you. I just wanted to clarify the member's question. In the previous act, he seems to be referring to Section 3E, which reads, gather and organize information on scientific research. Is that correct?
Member.
That is correct. I'm saying that there. I'm wondering whether it should be scientific and technological research, because we're changing it in D and F there. And also earlier in that actual section 3, there it talks about the importance of the development and dissemination of scientific, technological, and scholarly knowledge. And I'm wondering whether the research is actually also technological here. It may sound like semantics, but I don't know whether it's just inadvertent or whether it's deliberate.
Minister.
Thank you. I better understand the member's question now. Section E focuses, in the previous act, focuses on scientific research. The amendments are to D and F, substituting for science policy, science, technology, and innovation policy, and the focus there is not on research but on policy. So I don't think there was an intention to change E, and it was rather to expand the scope of the policy that would flow from whether it's scientific research or technology in general. So I think that's the reason for the distinction.
Member.
Well, thank you. I appreciate clarification. To further that, though, if the minister is able to look at section C, it actually talks about the development and dissemination of scientific, technological, and scholarly information. So I'm wondering whether there's an inconsistency there. On the one hand, you're disseminating and developing scientific, technological, and scholarly research, but in the other, you're just looking at the science aspect.
Minister.
I don't think there's an intention to emphasize or create a difficulty there. The focus is on the development of a broader policy beyond science policy, technology policy, and innovation policy. So that's clearly not the intention to, I think the members made a perceptive point, but it's not, I don't think it really detracts from the purposes of the amendments.
Member.
Thank you for the clarification. I have a number of general questions about the role of Innovate BC. In particular, I'm wondering if the minister could identify the relationship between the Innovation Commissioner and Innovate BC as reconstituted in this amended act here.
Minister.
Thank you. The Innovate BC and the Innovation Commissioner will be separate entities, but they will work closely together, obviously. The Commissioner is mandated to be an advocate for the tech industry, both here in British Columbia, to our federal counterparts, and indeed abroad. The Commissioner will interact with board members and will be an ex officio member, will be invited to participate in Innovate BC's board members as an ex officio member. So there will be a close relationship, but the Office of the Innovation Commissioner will be independent of the agency.
Member.
Thank you, Honourable Chair, and thank you for the answer. It actually answered my next question. Would the Innovation Commissioner be a member of the board or an ex officio member? And that is being clarified as well. My next question is with respect to, with this new vision as outlined in Section 5 of the Amendment Act pertaining to an amendment in Section 3 of the original Act, what is if the Minister could articulate in a few words what he would define as the new mission statement for Innovate BC is? I mean, has the Minister got an idea in mind what if he were to succinctly express in 2 sentences, what is the mission statement of Innovate BC as reconstituted here?
Minister.
Thank you. I've attended, I'm sure probably the member has, board meetings or retreats of organizations where a mission statement will sometimes be worked on for days, if not weeks, and a lot of internal debate will take place about the exact wording of a mission statement. So to ask me to give a precise mission statement that here is something that I approach with some caution. But what the goal of the organization is to focus and use innovation and support for innovation to catalyze companies to be more successful in what they do, whether it's, or even research institutions to be more successful. It's a broad look at the power and the transformational force of innovation as applied to a wide range of human and societal problems.
Member.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. That's very helpful, and I would never ask the Minister to develop a mission statement in committee stage. It would simply be something that he could not be held accountable to, understandably so. I have too been in those board meetings that have taken days to decide whether it should be a the or an or they. My next question then is following on that previous question, and actually as articulated here in section 5B, where it uses the word innovation policy. I'm wondering if the Minister would be able to define specifically what he means by innovation.
Minister.
Well, I did have a discussion with the member before lunch, and I got an opportunity to think about the question which he told me, he was very kindly told me he was going to ask me in advance. So I don't think I'd want to be confined to a single definition of innovation. One looks at different institutions, and innovation has different effects and different consequences in for example, research institutions, whether it's catalyzing or driving the creative and intellectual abilities of researchers and students, whether it's the kind of innovation that drives companies of all sizes to develop either new products or new services that allow them to grow and to fuel the economy. Clearly, innovations can be big, can be huge, whether we thinking of the company General Fusion, which I've met with and I'm sure the member is familiar with, where if the innovation that they're recommending would literally transform the world, and I don't think that's an understatement. Or whether there are small process innovations that in the way in which a manufacturing process goes forward, sometimes practitioners on the shop floor will think of a way that things might be improved, and that too would be an innovation. So I think what we're hoping to do is to take a wide view of innovation in all its aspects and look to it as in a competitive world, in a rapidly changing world, to draw on the creativity, the talent of the people of British Columbia, and use innovation and creative change to solve human problems, to make things better, to make companies grow and prosper, and generally enhance the quality of life of everyone in the province.
Member.
Thank you, Honourable Chair, and thank you for the very helpful response. So my last question is on the issue of technology. We've heard a lot of discourse, and I thank the member from Shuswap who asked a number of probing questions and the Minister for his responses. We've heard a lot about innovation in technology. I'm wondering if the Minister could expand upon what he means by technology, more for clarifying the public record. Many people often think that technology means apps and stuff that has chips on it. Whether here the Minister has a broader definition of what technology is, innovation in technology and innovation in general, in what areas other than just chips and, or computers or apps is he thinking when he's talking about innovation, perhaps in technology and elsewhere?
Minister.
Thank you. I would adopt the answer that the member suggested, which is a broad scope of innovation, whether it's, and I agree with them, sometimes there's a view that innovation is confined to software developers in downtown Vancouver. That is most assuredly not the case, whether it's in Kamloops, at the Kamloops Innovation Center, whether it's in Prince George, at the Clean Tech Innovation Hub that's being developed by the economic director there at the City Hall, whether it's in Victoria here with Techtoria. It's certainly geographically broad, and the scope of the problems that are tackled and what is meant by technology is very broad indeed. So technology is capable of revolutionizing and changing very traditional industries such as the mining industry. I think I've repeatedly given a couple of examples of MindSense, which is a company which is using the Internet of Things and sensors, devised a process to examine ore from it that's extracted and sort it more quickly and more thoroughly, more efficiently, thereby increasing the efficiency and ultimately the profit of the company, or whether it's Lamzoo, which has a visualization technology which looks at a mine as it before it's developed, inputs all the data and then represents that in a visual display of the mine site itself in a way that helps people to understand what the mine might look like, what the ore body might look like, how it might be extracted more efficiently. So there are I don't think I would want to be confined by that a narrow definition of technology. Certainly, whether it's technology or whether it's innovation solutions applied to climate change, whether it's life sciences, whether it's ICT, across the board. Some people speak, and there's an institution at Simon Fraser University that speaks of social innovation. In other words, applying some of the same techniques and some of the same inspiration and some of the same talent to major social problems, whether that might be addiction, the problems of aging. So I think there's always room, and the hope is that there's lots of solutions coming that can be implemented to make life better, solve problems, and make life better for everyone.